So once I quit my job, I did it the wrong way. And I mentor some entrepreneurs, and when I counsel them, I tell them don't do it the way I did it. Uh, but the reason, like, my podcast name is You Can't Afford Me. I wrote a book called You Can't Afford Me a couple of years after I quit corporate America.
Okay.
And that's a lie because my boss could afford me. I didn't have any savings. I didn't have anything. But I just said, I have to take this leap because it was at a point in my life where I wasn't married, didn't have kids. I'm like, I'm the only one that I have to be responsible for. It's a lot easier to just take care of one person than take care of 3, 4, or 5 people.
Right.
So that first obstacle was a couple months after quitting my full-time job. Like, I was renting an apartment with a buddy, and that time of the month came around, and I just didn't have it. So I went to him and I said, hey, man, I'm going to put an ad out on Craigslist. I'll get your roommate here within the next week. I'm going to live in my car.
Well, welcome, Sam Anderson.
Thank you. Glad to be here today. How you doing?
I am doing amazing. And so, Sam, you mentioned that as you were venturing in through your college career, you ended up dropping out of college. And so what led you to that decision, and how did you overcome the doubts and challenges that came with that?
Yeah, so I believe ultimately, I've always believed entrepreneurs are born, they're not made. So at this point when I'm in college, and this is dating myself a little bit, now you can go to university and like major in entrepreneurship, which I think is crazy. But they didn't offer anything as it related to entrepreneurship when I was on campus. So by the junior year, I'm waking up, you're taking all these different classes and things like that. And I'm just realizing like, no, I want to own a business. I don't want to work for someone. So after realizing that, like all the loans and everything were in my name, my parents were helping me out with books and computers and stuff like that. But like those loans are going to be on me. So I said, instead of continually going into debt, like I'm just going to break off and start figuring this thing out. So it took me a few years after leaving college to find my footing and figure out exactly what it is I want to do. But in terms of the struggles, the thing I remember when I quit the best full-time job I ever had, I remember quitting and telling my parents, and the first thing out of my mom's mouth was, what about your health benefits? And my response to my mom was, working for this company and doing something I hate every single day is bad for my health. So I think the better thing for my health is for me to leave here. So there was a lot to overcome in terms of, you've never owned a business before and you're going out for the first time. You're offering a brand new service in the town with a service that didn't exist before. Like, it's very hard to get something off the ground. So there were a lot of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, a lot of Little Caesars pizza for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because back then they were doing those $5 pies. So it was a struggle, but I often tell people, if you're interested in being an entrepreneur and you're not willing to work for little to no pay for 2 years, then don't even bother starting, because that's the path for most entrepreneurs, is that it takes years. I mean, I'm 10 years into this now, and I'm feeling like I'm really just getting started now. And I mean, it wasn't until that year 7 or 8 where, like, personally the money got really good. Like, in terms of a business, gross revenue and those things were scaling up. But with the businesses I've owned, service-based business, like, the larger you grow, the more overhead you get, because I got to hire more people, we got to pay for more software, we got to buy more computers, we got to get different camera equipment, all these different things. So yeah, those are some of the biggest struggles initially.
Okay, so you mentioned that you felt that entrepreneurs are born, and you also talked about how it really was, a lot of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, Little Caesar pizzas with those $5 pies, and not until you're maybe 7 that you saw that financial benefit of owning your own business. So what do you feel like for yourself was driving you to take that risk of letting go of those health benefits, listening to yourself as far as this isn't healthy for me, and then going into putting in all that sweat, those risks of being an entrepreneur? What was driving that?
Yeah, and that's why I say I think entrepreneurs are born, not made, because it's just something that's in you. Like, entrepreneur, I've heard this quote years ago. I think it was from one of the ladies on Shark Tank, where she says, entrepreneurs are the only ones that are willing to work 80 hours a week so they don't have to work 40 hours a week for someone else. Like, it's not an ideal lifestyle. Like, you look at in the early days, it's like one of those things where, like, you hear somebody works for a company and they get to travel all the time. They're going to Tokyo and Italy and Africa and all these different places. And you're like, man, that's got to be awesome. 9 times out of 10, you talk to that person who's been doing it for a while, they're like, man, it's really not as great as you think it is. Like, you're just living on an airplane, you're going from hotel to hotel, you're eating bad food all the time. You know, you're in and out of meetings, so you don't really get to even enjoy the scenery of these places you're at. And after a while, people are just like, man, I can't do this anymore. So the motivation was just always within. Like, I'm not one of those people that needs a cheerleader. I don't like people patting me on the back and telling me, man, you're doing a great job. I want you to tell me the things I'm doing wrong, because I already know what I'm doing well. Where are the areas that I need to grow? Even when I was in high school and playing sports, like, the coaches that I responded to the best weren't the ones that were congratulating me and patting me on the back. They were the ones telling me I wasn't doing enough. Like, I had one coach literally after a meet, like the year I was like the number one guy on our cross country team. It was literally after one meet, and I won the race like by a mile. Like, it was insane. And after the event, he put me in the gym and had me working out. He's like, there are some things out there, I don't care if you won first place, there are some things out there I didn't like what I saw. We're going to the gym. You got a 30-minute session with me once this meet's over. Like, and that's the type of stuff I respond to. I think too many people surround themselves with yes men. I like to be the dumbest guy in every room that I walk in, because if I'm the one doing all the talking, you know, I have no problem adding value to people. It's one of the things I enjoy the most. But, like, if those are the only rooms you're in and people are constantly pulling off of you and you're not able to pull from someone else, I mean, you can only grow so far. So the motivation piece is just like, I tell people, my favorite day of the week is Monday. Most people's favorite day is Friday because they're looking forward to the weekend. I look forward to Mondays because it's another opportunity to get started. It's another opportunity to create. It's another opportunity to take things to the next level.
That's wonderful. And very interesting about the feedback that you really gravitated towards as a younger person. And, you know, as a parent myself, and I even have coached my daughter's rec soccer team, you know, really being able to respond positively to that constructive criticism. Do you feel like you've always wanted that constructive criticism, or how was that evolution of getting to that point of coming off of that track meet? You won it by almost, you know, a lap or a mile, quite a bit, and your coach pulled you in for a 30-minute session after that win, not even congratulating you. How do you feel like you evolved to wanting to receive that?
I think it was just an innate thing. Like, you know, as individuals, we're all built differently. There's certain things that are going to motivate us. There's certain things that are going to interest us. And it's just always been one of those things where I've just always wanted to be better no matter what it is I'm doing. So when I have those people around me that I get very uncomfortable when I have a bunch of yes men around me.
Okay. What about it is uncomfortable for you?
Yeah. I know there's something I'm doing wrong.
Okay.
Like, I'm not the best of the best of the best. Like, I haven't been doing this 50 years. Like, I'm not on top of this mountain. I may have accomplished a lot, but there's a lot more to accomplish in my eyes. So it's just always been one of those things that just set with me where I think a lot of people focus on the things they're great at. I think people need to spend more time focusing on the things that they're not great at. Because my businesses did not start to scale till I could truly identify the areas of weakness for myself. So number one, I'm not the most organized person in terms of I'm the idea guy. I'll spit out a phenomenal idea. I'll walk out of that meeting 5 minutes later and be like, wait, what did I tell them we were going to do? Or what was that idea I pitched? Like, I don't know. So I have to have someone in the meeting taking notes. Like, because I will forget. And luckily now with AI, like, anytime I get on a Zoom call or something, I have an AI bot that gets on and takes notes for me, does an amazing job. But that's one of the areas that I know I'm weak at. One of the areas I feel I've grown a lot is leadership. Now, I didn't start out a good leader. I didn't know immediately how to lead an organization. So I spent a lot of time around people that were leading much bigger organizations than mine. I read as many books as I could on leadership. Like, that's probably the subject matter I read on the most. There's a book right now I'm reading, BE 2.0, which stands for Beyond Entrepreneur. This is the guy who wrote Good to Great. He was brought in as a counsel to Steve Jobs when Steve Jobs came back to Apple the second time. Like, this was the guy that people looked to say, hey, how can I grow as a leader? How can I expand this organization? So it's just a natural interest. You know, when you're a kid, this stuff gets beat out of us when we're kids. when you're a kid, like my daughter just graduated from preschool yesterday, so they had this little ceremony, and all the kids come up, and the teacher tells everybody what they want to be when they grow up, and it's like my daughter says she wants to be a doctor. Like another kid says he wants to be a firefighter. Another little girl says she wants to be a princess. Like we're just curious about all these different things. Because at a younger age, like I thought I was going to be a detective or a police officer or something like that. I remember in middle school, I said to my guidance counselor, I said, I don't know what I want to do, but I want to work with computers and I want to dress nice every day. Those are two things I knew that I wanted at that point in my life. So yeah, I think it's just pure curiosity and just understanding, like, whether it's your health and fitness, whether it's your spiritual life, whether it's business, whether it's relationships, is just always maintain that hunger for wanting to learn more.
Right. Yes. It's been proven that successful people are continuous learners, right? Lifelong learners. It's so important to be learning.
Nonstop.
No, that's amazing. So can you share some of the dirty details of your entrepreneurial journey that people don't often hear about? Like, what are some of the biggest obstacles that you faced early on, beyond the Little Caesars pizza and the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches?
Yeah, well, the first obstacle was having a place to live. So once I quit my job, I did it the wrong way. And I mentor some entrepreneurs, and when I counsel them, I tell them, don't do it the way I did it. But the reason, like, my podcast name is You Can't Afford Me. I wrote a book called You Can't Afford Me a couple of years after I quit corporate America.
Okay.
And that's a lie, because my boss could afford me. I didn't have any savings. I didn't have anything. But I just said, I have to take this leap, because it was at a point in my life where I wasn't married, didn't have kids. I'm like, I'm the only one that I have to be responsible for. It's a lot easier to just take care of one person than take care of 3, 4, or 5 people.
Right.
So that first obstacle was a couple of months after quitting my full-time job. Like, I was renting an apartment with a buddy, and that time of the month came around, and I just didn't have it. So I went to him and I said, hey man, I'm gonna put an ad out on Craigslist. I'll get your roommate here within the next week. I'm gonna live in my car. I can luckily continue to pay for my Gold's Gym membership. That was $10 a month, so I at least know I got a place to shower every day. I reached out to a couple of friends. I was like, hey, do you mind if I put some clothes here and put some clothes there? So it was like, no matter what I was doing, I had a spot somewhere in town if I needed to switch up the setup for a meeting or something like that. And I fully committed to living in my car. Like, hands down, I was ready to go. And the final day that my rent was due, where it's like, they don't care if you got 99.9% of the money. If you're a penny short, they're kicking you out. That day had come, and I can't even remember who the company was or who this gentleman was, but I'll never forget this conversation. So I'm just walking around, like, the apartment complex, just like praying, asking, like, give me an answer. How do I figure this out? I don't want to be homeless. And it was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, random number called, and it was surprising I picked up, because at that time in my life I had a lot of creditors calling me, so I typically didn't pick up the phone if I didn't know who it was.
Yeah.
But the voice on the other end of the phone said, hey, Mr. Anderson, you may not remember me, but you provided a quote to my company months ago. We weren't ready to do business then, we're ready now. Who do I write the check to? And I said, bruh, stay exactly where you're at. Don't put that check in the mail. I'm coming to get it right now. Cashed the check, got up to the apartment complex, paid my rent, and from that moment on, things just started going up.
Wow.
Now, life hasn't been a smooth ride. Like, it's like the stock market. Like, if you look over the last 10 years, there are definitely dips, but it's continually risen up. And I think that was God testing me, the universe, whatever your beliefs are, saying, do you really want to be an entrepreneur, or are you playing like you want to be an entrepreneur? Because if you really want to be an entrepreneur, I'm going to test you. There was a great quote from Morgan Freeman in that movie with Jim Carrey, Bruce Almighty.
Yes.
And he was sitting at the bar with a lady, and he was like, if you ask God for patience, do you think he just gives you patience, or do you think he gives you the opportunity to become patient? Like, it's a muscle that you have to flex. So I was given that opportunity, and luckily I made the right decision for myself and my life at that point. So that by far was the biggest struggle. I mean, outside of that, I mean, you name it. The hardest part of running a business is managing people. Like, staff is always going to be the hardest part of growing an organization. It's understanding everybody's love language. How you communicate with one employee is not the way that you're going to communicate with another. And just understanding that you have to continually educate yourself on those pieces, but creating that environment. Obviously sales, just being able to scale up, like that was something I went after hard in the early days, because I learned quickly that if you learn how to sell, you'll never go hungry again. Like, I don't care what industry you're in. Like, I could sell vacuum cleaners if I needed to. Like, somebody's going to buy a vacuum cleaner from me by the end of the day. So I think those things, obviously the financial pieces, and just making a lot of mistakes in the early days, because you just don't know what you don't know. Like, I made some bad deals. Like, they were deals I was able to learn from. There were also deals in terms of things where my company defaulted, where it was like I thought my staff was doing the work and they weren't, and I'm getting calls from a client saying, hey, we got to cancel, like your team hasn't been doing what they need to, and me stepping back and saying as a leader, okay, well, I need to redo some things here. Who is really the right person on the bus and who needs to go? And that's probably the hardest part. Like, people think firing is fun. Like, I know Donald Trump made it cool with The Apprentice at one point, just saying you're fired. No, I've never talked to a successful CEO that says he enjoys letting people go, because it's this whole component of, like, I'm not saying that I'm the reason that someone's able to get to a certain place in their life financially, but like, they're paying their bills based off the work that they do here. So it is a very emotional decision to make, but I've gotten to the point where my motto is hire slow, fire fast.
Yep.
You're either a good fit for our company or you're not. If you're not, there's no point in stretching this out and making things worse. Like, there were 2 individuals at the start of this year, hired them, they were here for 2 weeks, and I fired them. Like, it was just evident that they weren't going to be the right fit for this company. So why should they invest more time into a company where the CEO already sees this isn't going to work out? Why would I invest more time in them knowing these aren't the right people? Like, easier just to make a clean break. So yeah, there have been some tough decisions and obstacles over the years. And I would say too, on the relationship side, like, I met my wife right when I decided to become an entrepreneur. So managing that piece, where number one, like, you're glorified, you're on the unemployment line basically when you first start business. You have no revenue. Like, you're scrapping for whatever you can get. There were some times she had to pay for some of those dates. There were times when, hey, you mind putting $10 in the car? Like, it was rough in those early days, but the fact that she stuck through with me and all that, and saw the vision of where things were going, like, it's a lot to deal with.
Yeah. How important is it to have the right partner in this entrepreneurial journey?
It is everything. The biggest decision any entrepreneur can make is who you're going to spend the rest of your life with, hands down. Because if you don't have that support system, I told me and my wife's first date was a blind date. Had a great date. At the end of the check came, paid the check. Before we got up, I said, look, I'm going to explain something to you. I'm an entrepreneur. This is what I've been put on this earth to do. If you're the type of woman that needs a man by her side 24/7, it was nice meeting you. I hope you enjoyed your meal. But this is what it looks like if you're dating an entrepreneur. There are going to be some weeks you're really not going to see me that much. There'll be other times I can make it up on the back end. But if you're willing to ride with that, I'd love to take you out for a second date. And she said, no, I'll go out with you again. So from the get-go, I set the stage and said, this is what it is. I'm not giving up on my dream for anything. This is my purpose on this earth. And if you have somebody that's going to combat that, like, my wife will hit me up. I don't even have to say anything. She'll be like, you know what? I'm going to take the kids with me to the gym today. Like, the kids' playroom's open. So you can work late today. Don't worry. We won't be home anyway. Like, and she just kind of gets a sense for that stuff when I need that extra time at the office, and I don't even say anything.
Right.
Women are very intuitive. Like, they pick up on stuff that we think we're hiding as men, and you guys pick up on it. I don't know how you do it. But yeah, having that right person, because it was also a dream of mine to be a husband and a father. But the pace I run at and the things I do, like, I can't be the one picking the kids up from school. I can't be the one taking them into every little thing. Like, if we get that phone call from the school saying, hey, your kid's throwing up, somebody's got to come pick them up, I can't do that. Like, I'm blessed with the fact that my wife wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and take care of those things. So, yeah, finding the right spouse is everything as a business owner.
Great. Wonderful. That's very insightful. So you've started and shut down several businesses. So, what have you learned about knowing when to pivot or let go of an idea that's no longer serving you?
Great question. One, I've only had two businesses that I would consider failures.
Okay.
2 out of 10, which those aren't bad odds.
Yeah.
The ones that didn't succeed, I ultimately knew from the start because my heart wasn't into it. Now, I don't believe in that crap where people like, do something you're passionate about and you'll never work a day in your life. I don't care if you thoroughly enjoy everything about your business or your job. There are going to be things with that job, with that business that you're not going to enjoy doing. You just have to get done. And I'm sorry, repeat the question one more time. I was about to go on a tangent somewhere else.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was appreciating the tangent, but so we talked about what have you learned about knowing when to pivot or let go of an idea that's no longer serving you?
Like my laundry business was called Cycle. So it was a Valley Laundry service. Our clients dumped dirty laundry outside the doorstep. We picked it up in 48 hours.
Okay.
I thought it was a genius model. I'm like, this will work because I saw the direction that the marketplace was going and is still going. People will pay for convenience.
Right.
This is literally the reason why Amazon is one of the biggest companies in the world, because we enjoy sitting on our butt, tapping our phone, and then having something show up at our doorstep. I didn't have to put my shoes on. It's convenience. When we were doing that laundry service, I literally had people ask me, how much would it cost for you not only to deliver my laundry, but for you to unfold or fold it, put it in my drawers, hang the stuff up in my closet for it. They were willing to have a stranger walk in their home and go through their closet. The convenience factor was there. I just didn't enjoy the business. When I initially was approached about being a co-owner of this business, I just saw it as a payday, and it lasted a year because my heart wasn't into it. Now, my media company and some of the other things I've done, I can take the hits because I thoroughly enjoy what I do. So, and in terms of pivoting, so I'll use COVID as an example. First off, thank God for the PPP loans, because I'm not sure I'd be here talking to you today if that didn't happen. We took a massive hit as a media firm because everything we do requires us to be in person. Not everything, but the majority of what we do requires us to be in person with clients. So when things get shut down and realtors were a big market for us. We were doing their walkthrough videos when they listed homes. When you're not allowed to do that anymore, well, how can I expect clients to still pay me? So I made a quick pivot. We jumped in my studio. I made tutorial videos on how to record good quality content on your cell phone, how to do proper lighting, how to get the best audio out of your phone. And I would get clients to film stuff, send it to us, and I had my team working remotely, and we would just continually edit everything that they brought our way. Even figuring out some stuff with some B-roll footage and things we could do where we didn't need to be around anyone, and I could just send a videographer out to get something. That was a massive pivot, looking at, hey, how can I make this a thing where it's I don't have to be here in person to provide great marketing services to a client. So, and now I'm really going through that with AI tools. If you are in business for yourself, I don't care if you work for someone else, you need to be all in on AI. Stop thinking that this is something that's just a wave and it's going away. It's not going away. There are tasks now that I have our team doing that, let's say for instance, this podcast. So if my team was filming this and we were responsible for editing this video, we're going to provide a full video and a few reels to go out on social media. Prior to that, I would have had to have a editor sit down, go through the entire podcast episode and chop out little pieces and cut things together and do X, Y, and Z. Now, we pay for an AI system where I would take this video, upload it in the system, and within 15 minutes, it's going to shoot out 20 reels with captions already provided on it. And descriptions for what I should be posting to go along with it. So something that used to take a staff member hours to do, now an AI system does that in 15 minutes. You got to be all in on this stuff. You got to educate yourself. You got to see what's coming over the horizon, because if you look at any business in any industry, the ones that have fallen, Blockbuster is a great example. Blockbuster, I don't think a lot of people know the story with Blockbuster and Netflix. Blockbuster was in a position to acquire Netflix. Not only that, they could have made the switch because they're the big kid in town. Nobody was going to knock Blockbuster off. So when Netflix came around, a lot of people forget, like they used to just mail you the DVDs, like you just pick what you want and it comes in your box. So Netflix actually went to Blockbuster and said, hey, would you like to acquire us? They said no. The market starts to shift. People no longer want to go into a store and have to rewind their VHS and all this other stuff and get in the car, blah, blah, blah. They just want to be able to hit a button and watch it directly on their TV. Blockbuster refused to pivot. Refused. And then it got to the point where Blockbuster was about to have to file for bankruptcy. Netflix again came back to Blockbuster and said, hey, we're willing to buy you. We will acquire you. And the CEO of Blockbuster said, no, we're going down on this sinking ship. So because of pride and a dinosaur mentality, literally one of the largest companies in the world ultimately collapsed because they weren't willing to pivot and change. And you see how that's going with media today, where a lot of our kids, they don't know what a standard TV show is. They're watching stuff on YouTube that someone with the $5,000 camera is making. It's not being produced by some major studio or something like that. So it's anybody who says they don't see the trends and the changes in the marketplace coming, you are choosing to ignore it because the evidence is there right in front of your face.
I love that story, and I'm glad that you used it as an example. It's very powerful of the importance of pivoting and letting go of pride, right? So that can definitely get in your way. So you mentioned using social media and podcasting as key marketing tools. So what advice would you give to creatives on building their personal brand and reaching new audiences online?
Yep. So first, build your avatar. And when I say that, what I mean is you have to figure out who your demographic is that you're speaking to. If you're trying to speak to everybody, you're talking to nobody. So I have an avatar for all of my brands where I literally give them names, occupations, what they do as hobbies, like what their interests are, all these sorts of things. So anytime I make a post, I'm looking at that and saying, would John like this? And the more niche you can get on a subject matter or with your content, the better it actually gets. Like if you're just putting things out for the masses, typically you're not going to get much response on that. But when you can get very specific, so let's say, this may be a bad example, but let's say you're into bees, right? I don't particularly care for bees, so it's not content that's going to interest me, but I can promise you there are hundreds of thousands of people across the world that are obsessed with bees, beekeeping, getting natural honey, like all these different things. So a lot of people may look at that and be like, I'm the only one that nerds out on this stuff. No one's ever really going to care. No, there are hundreds of thousands of people that are interested in the subject matter that you're willing to offer. So get very strategic with that. Number 2 is remaining consistent. Everybody quits way too soon. Way too soon. Like I've talked to people and they got all excited about starting a podcast, and I go look them up on iTunes now and they had 5 episodes 6 years ago. Like, you can't expect to do anything 5 times and expect that you're going to succeed. Like, there's no other Joe Rogan on this planet. Like, nobody's going to explode to that level. These are unicorns. And I think a lot of times people look at the outliers and think that that's the way things should work. Like, no, this is one person out of a billion that was able to do X, Y, and Z. Does not mean you're that one in a billion too. Go with the formula. And the formula teaches us is that the more consistent you are with anything, that could be health and fitness, that could be marketing, that could be relationships, that could be your finances. Like the people who have the biggest stock portfolios are not the ones that got blessed with a $100,000 gift from their parents. It's the people that stocked away $200 every single month for the last 10 years and continue to invest in the S&P 500. Those are the ones with the booming portfolio. So remaining consistent, figuring out what your level of consistency is, because this marketing game is literally a full-time job. So when you're first starting out, you're not going to be able to afford another company to help you with these things. But what I used to do is I would sit down on Sundays and I would create all my content for the entire week because I was just too busy. I couldn't manage it. And there's systems that will allow you to schedule it actually directly through Facebook and Instagram and Meta. You can actually schedule your posts directly through those social media channels. YouTube, like my next 4 podcasts that I have going live, they're already scheduled out for the next 4 weeks on YouTube. Like, do things in a pocket of time so that you're not scrambling day to day, because what most people are doing is they're running around, they're trying to build their business, they're trying to build their brand. They get home at 6:30 at night, you're sitting on the couch and you're like, I forgot to post something. I'll do it tomorrow. And then the same thing happens tomorrow. And next thing you know, you wake up and it's like, oh, it's been a month since you posted anything and you're wondering why nobody's doing business with you. So remaining consistent with that. Number 3 is the context of what you were talking about is more important than the quality of it. So you don't need to have the best camera. You don't need to have the best mics. You don't need to have the best editors. You don't need to have any of this stuff. If the stuff you are saying is going to resonate with someone, people are going to engage with your content. There's one financial guy that I follow, one of my favorite financial guys on TikTok. He does nothing special with his content. So he literally just goes on a walk every day. And while he's on a walk, he has some subject matter that he'll talk about. And he'll do a quick 60-second video while he's walking. And it's just him doing this. No camera crew, no wireless mic, no nothing. He just films it while he's walking, keeps it moving. I think too many people get in their head where like, I've taught this happens a lot with females when I'm initially talking to a female business owner about some stuff. You know, they may agree with everything I say when it comes to marketing. I talk to them about getting on camera and being a representation of their brand. And a lot of them are just like, you know what, Sam, you're right. I need to do this. I love it. But let me lose 20 pounds before I start, getting okay. Never in the history of the world has somebody like looked at, let's take a real estate agent, for instance, looked at a realtor and said, hey, you are phenomenal. I think you're the best realtor in town. I think you can give me the deal I need. But I'm not going to hire you because I need you to drop about 20 pounds before we can do business together. No one cares. So all those things that we see on camera or the way we hear our voice when we're being interviewed on the podcast, we're being very critical of ourselves when it comes to that. People aren't paying attention to that. They're paying attention to what you're saying. So if you can get good at crafting a message, find that niche and remain consistent with it, I believe just about anybody can be successful when it comes to social media marketing.
Yeah.
And let me say this too.
Yeah.
You don't need 100,000 followers. Okay? You do not need 100,000 followers. If your grandparents started a business back in the day, let's say it was in the 50s, right? How much do you think they would pay to within 5 minutes hit a button and reach 1,000 people? Let's not even go 1,000. Let's go a couple hundred people. They would have given their left arm to be able to have that capability, right? And we take it for granted because it's right here at our fingertips. But when people are putting stuff out and they're like, oh, only 200 people saw this. 200 people is a lot. Like, for a lot of business owners, if all 200 of those people came to you today and wanted to buy your product or service, could you serve them? The answer is typically no, you couldn't. So why are you getting hung up on not having 100,000 followers? Like, across, like, looking at any individual platform, like Facebook, I got about 7,000 followers there. Instagram, like 3,300. LinkedIn's a different animal because you can just connect with who you want to. Like, I got like 15,000 connections there. So at any given time, if I have a message or something I need to get out, if I need help with something, I could literally post right now, as we're doing on this podcast, I could post on Facebook and say, hey, my son's birthday is coming up and he wants a monkey at his birthday party. Who knows someone who has a monkey that does birthday parties? I guarantee you, with the amount of connections that I have on social media, within 15 minutes, I got an answer. Somebody's going to hit me with the company, their email address, their phone number, and I'll have that monkey guy on the phone within the next 20 minutes. So if you spend the time, and this is over the course of a decade of me continually putting out content, building a network, if you continually work on these things, when you need it the most, it's always going to be there for you.
I love that you're talking about consistency. And so going back to being our greatest self-critic, I know even for myself, as I've been putting things out there, and I'm sure people have experienced this as well, you will get that occasional person who is critical, who does make that odd comment. And at the beginning of our time together today, you mentioned that as you quit the best full-time job you had, your mom was like, well, what about your health benefits? So how do you manage your mindset to withstand any criticism, whether it's from people who you know are just trying to protect you or see you do well, right? Those loved ones, or it's some stranger that does make that comment on a post that you've put up?
If it's a stranger, I could care less. Like, the keyboard warriors are a real thing. There are legitimately people who, in their lives, they have nothing going on. And how they choose to spend their time is by... There's two ways to have the biggest building in the city. One, you can construct it and build it higher than the previous building, or you can tear the other building down and just build yours above the ground. Like, and most people choose to tear someone else down to make themselves look better. It's obviously not how you do things. So the other piece too is like, I didn't feel like I was on a level of success until I got some haters. Like Cat Williams said in a stand-up, like, if you got haters, what you complaining about? You need to be worrying about how you're going to get 10 more by the end of the summer. Like, having haters, like, if you're not doing something worthwhile, you're not making waves and people aren't going to say anything. When it's quiet and nobody's saying anything, and I know how I operate, so I know I'm not doing anything out of pocket. So when someone says stuff like that to me, it's like, whatever. If they don't directly have an influence on my business, my finances, my relationships, anything like that, I could care less. And that's a whole nother level of being an entrepreneur where I wasn't always able to say that. I used to care. But then you get to a certain part, and I'm not going to use some French words I was going to thinking of here, what I would traditionally say with this. But I want you guys to hear me when I say this. I honestly do not care, to the core of my being, do not care what other people think about me. I just don't. I don't. And when you get to a point in life where you're at that mental level, life gets so much easier. Because it's not about wondering who's in the stands, who's supporting, who's doing blah, blah, blah. A vast majority of people who end up doing business with me have never liked, commented, or shared a post on social media. They're just watching. Most people are spectators in life. But they've seen the progression. They've seen the stuff that's coming. And they eventually reach out and we end up doing business together. But you got to get yourself to a point where you just don't care what other people think. Because anytime I take advice from someone, my first thought is this going to affect them in any way? It's real easy to give someone advice of like, you run into somebody in the airport and they live in California and you live in Florida and you guys have never seen each other before and you'll never see each other again. And they give you some life advice and they walk away. They're going to go back to their life and never have another care about you again in the world. What's the effects of taking their advice? I'd rather talk to someone who has a vested interest in me. And when I say that, I'm more or less talking about like mentors. Obviously, like, I care about what my wife and my mother and like people like that in my life say and think about me. But as long as you're moving right, like you're moving in an authentic way, you're not out here ripping people off, you're not doing shady business, who cares?
So how did you get to that place? Because, you know, as a transformational coach who helps with mindset, who really sees the power of mindset, you said that you used to care. So what tools, clearly you read a lot, you follow some people. What has helped you the most with establishing a mindset that you can just let things roll off your back?
I got tired of it. It's exhausting to care about what other people think. It's just exhausting. It was taking up my day. I equate a big part of that to the people I chose to surround myself with. And people forget, like, your network, you create your network. So where you choose to live, you're picking a network. Where you send your kids to school or where you chose to go to school in college, you chose your network. The people you employ, you're choosing your network. The people I hang out with socially, the people I golf with, like all these different things, you're choosing your network. And the people I was around, they were the same way. They're just like, something would happen and I'd tell them X, Y, and Z. Like, dude, they're going to forget about that tomorrow, man. Don't worry about that. Let's focus on this over here. So I think it's just a constant mode of like putting the right information into your head. Like, that's what I hate when people say stuff about social media in terms of like we're being fed all the wrong things in social media. No, your algorithm's just screwed up. You got nobody to blame but yourself. Because when I go on social media, I'm getting financial advice, I'm getting health advice, I'm getting business advice, I'm getting relationship advice. The algorithm sends to you what you've interacted with and what you've said that you're interested in.
Correct.
So if you're getting a bunch of dumb videos of some kid pranking this old man at Home Depot, like, it's because you continually engage with this content. So I think putting the right stuff in your head. Now, I'll never forget, this was probably like a year ago. I was experiencing some burnout because I'm real bad about relaxing and vacations and stuff like that. And I was just in a funk. Like I told you at the beginning of this, Mondays are my favorite day, and I was just coming to work like not wanting to do anything. And I recognized what was going on. I sat myself down in front of the TV for 2 hours, I went to YouTube and I searched entrepreneur motivation. And again, I'm not the type of guy that needs to be hyped up, need a cheerleader. I don't need a bunch of rah stuff. But I saw what was going on in my head and I was getting down on myself. So I sat down for 2 hours and just watched motivational content around entrepreneurship. After I got it from the couch, I was good to go. I may have to do a little reset like that every 12 to 18 months. It's not a normal occurrence, but what you put into your head, what you're listening to, what you're watching, those things make a massive difference in how you move.
Absolutely. I am applauding you and agreeing with every word you're saying. So thank you for this. So you've talked about the importance of having the right business partner. So what qualities do you look for and how have you navigated challenging partnerships in the past?
I need a business partner to be everything that I'm not.
Okay.
And vice versa. So I'm not the numbers guy. I'm not the accountant guy. I don't like doing the insurance. I don't like making the back end phone call. I don't like doing any of that stuff. I like to be in front of the camera. I like to be marketing. I like to be sales. I like to be in leadership. I like all these other things. So the best business partners that I've had are the guys that are the exact opposite. I'm not a numbers guy. My best business partner was a numbers guy. He didn't want to be in front of the camera. I love being in front of the camera. So you got to kind of find this yin yang. And there's some red flags you need to look out for. So I'll equate it to, because Michael Jordan's the GOAT for me, so I'm going to equate it to like the 96 Bulls. Jordan was the greatest ball player of all time, but he was on what I believe to be the greatest teams of all time. Had he not had Dennis Rodman and Scottie Pippen, I'm not sure he would have got 6 rings. So it's the same thing in a business where we both can't be Michael Jordan. One of us has to be Scotty or one of us has to be Dennis Rodman. Somebody got to be, working in the paint, getting the blocks, getting the rebounds. Somebody else has to be taking the 3-point shots. So I think before you get into a business relationship or business partnership with someone, you have to ask each other, what are the things you're good at and what are the things you're not good at? So that you can compare, contrast, and make sure this is a good feeling. It's so similar to marriage. Like when you get in business with someone, it's so close to a marriage because this person is going to be in a variety of aspects in your life. So if this is something you jump too quick on, it's a lot easier to get into a business partnership than it is to get out of it. And trust me, there are some headaches getting out of a business partnership. So it's not something you want to roll into. And I know a lot of people when you're first starting a company, the easiest way to scale a company because you're not going to have the revenue is just to bring in a co-founder with you. But don't be so quick to just rush in because you've known this guy since college or you used to work with him at this company. I dare say probably take 2 to 3 months to really understand if someone's going to be a good fit as a business partner for you.
So talk to me about your current organization and really what you have to offer clients who are looking for marketing support.
Yeah. So several organizations. I'll end on the last one. That's my main business. I got my brand, Misterpreneur, which that was kind of meant to kind of encompass all the things I was doing. But now I use that LLC for paid public speaking events. I'll speak on entrepreneurship and marketing. And then I take a small number of clients and do some coaching with throughout the year. So typically I probably won't take on more than 5 to 10 clients a year. And my target market for that is people that are very new to entrepreneurship or they haven't yet reached their first 6 figures or low 6 figures in business. Everybody's looking to be mentored by Mark Cuban and guys who have made billions, but if you're only making $10,000 a year in your business, you got to get to 6 figures before you can get to millions and billions. So that's a big component of what I do there. Also Warren Investment. So that's basically just me going out and getting investment properties, things like that. So that's something I'm constantly building on. Enzo Media Firm is the baby. That's the one I've been the most focused on over the last decade. So with that, we provide video marketing services, social media management, podcast production, graphic design, and photography. And the whole reason I constructed this business was because I needed these services. As a small business owner, I couldn't find marketing firms that could give me the quality of content I wanted, but at a price point that I could afford. Also understanding how marketing needs to be consistent. We kind of took a different path from a lot of other companies where I went more of that gym membership model, where whether it's graphic design, photography, podcasting, video, whatever it is, if you're not doing it consistently each month, you're not going to see the ROI. So 85% of the clients we work with are with us on a monthly basis. They're signing contracts between 6 to 12 months. And we take all that marketing off their plate. Like our team comes up with the concepts, we're running the analytics, we're getting them the reports. So it's literally an extension of your organization where you don't have to worry about these things. Because if you brought these kind of services and hired someone in-house, someone that can do everything that we provide here, that person's going to cost you a good 6 figures. On top of that, you're going to have sick days, you're going to have PTO, you're going to have holidays, you're going to have all these different things. Taxes, health benefits, all those things. So that $100,000 employee ends up costing you a lot more than you initially think. Versus bringing in a company like ours fractionally to work with, where we can get you all these things, but it's not going to be at a price point that's going to break your budget.
Wonderful. So if you could go back and give your younger entrepreneurial self a piece of advice, what would that be? And what do you know now that you wish you knew then?
I would say delayed gratification is the biggest thing that I would highlight, is understanding you don't have to do it all now. And I was recently talking to a guy, he's had his business now for about 6 years, but we talked about he was in his early 20s when he got it off the ground. And I was talking about, how many times he had to miss those Friday nights at the bar, parties and things like that were going on because he's building a business. But he only had to deplete himself or keep himself from those things for about 12 months. Now he gets to do whatever he wants. So understanding that, man, if you just put a few things on hold, there's so much more that you're going to be able to do later in your life. If you can just give this a concentrated effort. That's why we love and idolize, sports professionals and things like that so much, is because these people are literally dedicated, like a guy like Kobe Bryant, who's I also think is one of the greats. Kobe ate, slept, and breathed basketball. That's all it was. He was the first one in the gym. He was the last one to leave. And most people will never find that level of commitment in their life. No, most people aren't willing to commit to something that hardcore. But he reached the top of the top because of that. Majority of this stuff, whether it's athletics or business or relationships, whatever the case is just showing up. Enough people aren't showing up. Looking at the gym, one piece of advice I got from someone just to get consistency with going to the gym. I talked to one trainer. He said when he first got started, sometimes he wouldn't even go in the gym. He would drive to the gym, sit in the parking lot for 5 minutes, and then drive home. After doing that a while, he was like, man, this is stupid. I'm here. I might as well go in, even if he didn't feel like it. So then you go in and you're like, I don't really feel like working out, but I'll give it 5-10 minutes on the treadmill. And then it's constantly building. You just build this repetition. Now it's like eating breakfast. If I don't start my day out with the workout, I feel like the day's off. So yeah, that delayed gratification is the biggest thing I would go back.
And be sure to watch this video to learn more tools and receive inspiration and motivation to go for your dreams. You can do it. I believe in you.